Megumi Fushiguro is probably one of my favourite Deuteragonists of all time, from his writing to his narrative importance, from his difference to a lot of the cast to his abilities, and most importantly, how he's able to function so well as a character alongside the protagonist of the series, Itadori Yuji. In a world where Jujutsu sorcerers are given the sole purpose of exercising curses and as a result saving people, it's not unusual for sorcerers to adopt the ideologies that they need to serve and protect people. The only thing mattering to those sorcerers is if they're weak or unable to protect themselves. Of course, not all sorcerers have saving people in their conscience. People like Naoya, probably the most disrespectful sorcerer to exist, comes to mind. But out of those that do at times save people, and in a profession that essentially requires you to be relatively selfless to put yourself on the line, you have a few anomalies that pick and choose when and why they save people. For example, Meimei, who saves people when she gets paid or there's some transaction of some form or kind. And Megumi, who in my eyes manages to perfectly encapsulate the idea of simultaneously being selfish and selfless. As he's a person that does save people, but rather than saving people regardless of their circumstance, he saves them based off how he feels towards the person in the moment. From the first impression of Megumi alongside what we saw of Yuji, I thought that their characters would be an echo of the Naruto and Sasuke dynamic. With Yuji, when we're first introduced to him, we see that he's extremely kind-hearted and selfless, proven by his lack of hesitation to save his friends and go up on an opponent that's clearly stronger than him despite having no cursed energy at the time. And he's a relatively expressive character with eccentric coloured hair, which are all traits reminiscent of Naruto, even more so factoring the inner demon of Sukuna, which reminded me of the Nine Tails at a first glance. With Megumi, I saw what I thought to be an instant resemblance to Sasuke. His crestfallen expression, the dark hair, his personality from what I saw, as well as the fact that it seemed like he was set up to have a relationship with Itadori, who I thought to be an echo of Naruto. But I was very pleasantly surprised when I continued reading and realized that Gege likely wrote both Yuji and Megumi this way to build a certain expectation, and as the story goes on, completely subverts those same expectations, as both of these characters are able to break the commonly used morally white protagonist, morally black Deuteragonist trope. Like I said earlier, Megumi is a character that saves people unfairly. If he believes somebody to be good, he'll save them, and Yuji is the first example of this. He knows that Sukuna is a threat that by all means should be executed, and his existence has negative implications on the Jujutsu world. From a logical standpoint, and I assume Megumi to be an extremely logical person based on his dialogue, it's objectively better for the world and society for Yuji to die alongside Sukuna, as multiple people would probably die if he stayed alive. Megumi surprised me though and decided to save Yuji as he knew he was a good person. A key moment for Megumi's development was in the fearsome Moon arc alongside Yuji. Megumi and Yuji get into a dispute about recovering the body of someone that's hit a girl while driving without a license, and he went on to tell Yuji that you always want to save as many people as possible, but who's to say that someone you save won't kill someone in the future? This moment stuck out to me, and I think this is where I truly started to appreciate Megumi. He is again making it clear that he picks and chooses based off of his emotion, as he openly contradicts himself here, and we get the reasoning for this later on, both when he's fighting Sukuna and during the bridge arc. Megumi says that the only thing that's fair about life is how unfair it is to everyone. Those who have done nothing but commit good acts can still be subject to the most abhorrent things, and those who have committed acts of atrocity can still be given multiple chances. Megumi's sister being an example of this. Itadori by extension is also an example of this. He's someone that put his life on the line to save his friends, and was given the choice of either consuming the finger or dying alongside his friends. Being a good person, he picked the first option, but he's still been condemned to die. Though he tries to hide it, Megumi's internal sense of justice is insanely strong, but he conveys that he isn't a hero of any kind, but just a Jujutsu sorcerer. And funnily enough, this trait of his that makes him go out of his way to save those he deems good is a detriment to his own self-progression. It's hinted at like in the baseball episode where Megumi takes a sacrificial bunt in order to let his classmates succeed. Gojo confirms that the thing holding Megumi back is the mentality he has towards himself. This mentality led him to underestimate himself and be unable to envision himself as strong, likely because he always thought that whenever he's on the brink of death, he can always just use his trump card nuclear bomb that is Maharaga to wipe out his opponent. This conversation with Gojo was integral to Megumi's growth both as a person and a Jujutsu sorcerer. Domain expansions are the highest grade technique that any Jujutsu sorcerer can utilize, the only other thing coming close being maximum techniques. The materialization of a domain expansion begins in the mind, being an innate domain. As it begins in the mind, my headcanon is that in order to generate or bring out a domain, you need to be mentally strong or have a large amount of conviction in yourself and your ideals. Your imagination and curse techniques serve as the basis for the domain, and if you can't envision a stronger version of yourself, it makes sense as to why a domain might be hard to manifest, as I believe a domain is proof of confidence in yourself as well as your skill as a Jujutsu sorcerer or cursed spirit. As soon as Megumi had faith in himself, envisioned a future him that was stronger, and began to dismiss his self-destructive mentality, he was able to, though incomplete, bring out his own domain. I want to take a bit of time to talk about Megumi's potential and the role he'll play in the rest of the story. His potential as a sorcerer is evident through the way he fights as well as the nature of his technique, which I'll talk about later, but as we learn in another conversation with Gojo, his true potential is a lot greater than what I had envisioned before Shibuya. Gojo talks about why the Gojo and Zenin clan are on bad terms, and it's because a limitless 6 eyes user like him and a 10 shadows user like Megumi killed each other in battle. To me, this is foreshadowing of his potential and what level of strength he could potentially reach. The 10 shadows technique works on a progressive scale. As Megumi describes it, a sorcerer of the technique begins with 2 divine dogs and progressively gains more as they summon and exercise more Shikigami. Because of the linear nature of progression of his technique, readers are able to clearly see how he's evolved as a sorcerer over time. We also get to see a demonstration of the 10th Shikigami being Maharaga that nobody in the Zenin family has been able to utilize. By the end of the series, I do believe that Megumi will be able to control Maharaga in some form. I believe that the fact that he's also able to involve other people to exercise the cursed spirit will also be put into play as well. Due to Maharaga's constant adaptation ability, it seems like the main way to take it down is with a barrage of attacks it hasn't been hit by before, and the easiest way to do that is to involve multiple people. Sukuna was just able to do it solo because he's Sukuna, but I think if Maharaga does end up being tamed, I do think it will be alongside the comrades that he values so much. Another thing I like about Megumi is how he isn't afraid to kill to protect someone he loves. After learning about the Culling games and how his sister's life is in danger, Megumi isn't afraid to kill humans and shows zero remorse in doing so, which further plays into the whole motif of I'm not a hero, I'm a Jujutsu sorcerer. He's decided that he wants to save his sister, and it's evident that he will do anything to achieve his goal. We've also seen how Sukuna is extremely interested in him, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a dilemma or ultimatum caused by Sukuna involving him, Megumi, and his sister. Overall, Megumi is a fantastic character, and I'm extremely interested in seeing how his story will develop and what other Shikigami there are that he can possibly tame. I think I've said everything I wanted to. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a nice